and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're glad you're here once again. And every week we're on The Verdict, talking to interesting people and discussing interesting topics. And we got a guy this week that we've been trying to get on the show for quite some time.
Yes, President David Bourne, University of Oklahoma, will be joining us both this week and next week. And we're going to be talking about what's going on at the University of Oklahoma. President Bourne's awfully busy, got a lot of things going, but and it's the beginning of the school year. I know it's extra busy for him. We appreciate his time.
Yeah, few can match his resume, and what he's done while president of the University of Oklahoma is quite remarkable. We'll look at where they are today. It's all coming up on The Verdict, an interview with David Bourne. Stay with us.
Every day America uses clean-burning natural gas instead of coal or oil is a day of victory for our environment. That's why Chesapeake chose to explore for natural gas exclusively, and we've never looked back. Because natural gas burns twice as clean as oil or coal, and reducing carbon emissions to combat potential global warming is every bit as urgent as cutting our dependence on energy imports. As America's #1 driller of new gas wells, Chesapeake is moving fast to find untapped reserves of natural gas here at home. It's the right fuel for America's economy and the fuel for a clean air future. We just happen to be early to see it so clearly. Chesapeake, natural gas wins the day.
And welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Very pleased today to welcome to The Verdict President David Bourne, the 13th president of the University of Oklahoma. President Bourne's had a distinguished career in education and in the political scene and in public service generally. He is a Yale undergraduate where he achieved Phi Beta Kappa status as well as a Rhodes Scholar. Got his law degree from the University of Oklahoma where he was designated the outstanding student and to the Order of the Coif. Got a master's degree from Oxford University in politics, philosophy, and education. And we are so pleased to have you. He's been served politically in the House of Representatives, as governor of the state of Oklahoma, and of course as United States Senator from Oklahoma for 15 years. We are we're so grateful that you would be here and join us, and welcome to The Verdict for the first time.
Oh, thanks very much, Kent. And Mayor, it's good to be with both of you. Listening to all that, thinking back on some of that reminds me, I was talking to my class, which I teach every semester, the other day, and they said, I said, how old were you when I came to the University of Oklahoma? And they said, well, we were 4, which meant, you know, they were only 4 years old or less when I was senator. And of course, now I'm to the point where only some of their parents were alive when I was governor. So kind of puts things in perspective, you know.
Well, let's start with a broad topic then. The only person in state history to have been governor, U.S. Senator, and president of the University of Oklahoma. Discuss the relationship of those 3 positions. Which one do you enjoy the most, and which one do you offer a perspective today that people might enjoy hearing about?
Well, that's probably an easy question, and it doesn't take me long to think about which one means the most to me. I'm enjoying the presidency at the University of Oklahoma the most. It's the greatest sense of reward. And that doesn't mean I didn't feel have a rewarding experience in the other jobs. When I look back to some of the reforms we made, open meetings and recording all the votes out in the open in the legislature, and starting special education classes and classes for the gifted and talented. And a lot of things that were done give me a lot of satisfaction. And the same thing when I look back on the Senate. My first bill was to do away with the inheritance tax between husband and wife. which used to really be so unfair to the women that worked on the farm or in a small business. They were real partners with their husbands, but they were treated as if they made no contributions. All those things are wonderful. But I remember when I was trying to make up my mind about whether to leave the Senate 2 years early and come home to be president of the University of Oklahoma. And among the people that I called for advice was Terry Sanford from North Carolina, because he'd been a governor, he'd been in the Senate with me, but he had also been president of Duke University. And so he'd done all three, and very few people had done all three. And I got him on the telephone down in North Carolina, and he said, "David, is this a 3-minute question or is this a 10-minute question?" Because he said, "I'm supposed to walk in, I'm in the hallway on a payphone, and I'm supposed to walk in and make a speech." And I said, "Well, I'll just ask you the question, and then you can decide whether we need to talk longer." And I told him I'd been asked to come home and be president of the university, and should I do it? He'd done all three. And he said, "That's a 15-second question." He said, "Say yes before they change their minds." He said, "If you really, truly love a place and you want to make a real contribution to it," he said, "investing your life in the next generation, in that state, in that place," he said, "it's the most rewarding experience of all." And I've thought about it so often what he said, and his 15-second answer was right on. To feel that you're really touching the future, that you're helping convey values and raise the standards. I felt so strongly that these talented young people in our state shouldn't have to go out of state to get an education second to none. And that's been our hope that at OU we could do that, and I think we are doing that now.
Well, indeed. You're attracting the brightest and the best, not only locally but beyond the borders. Let me ask you something that I've wondered about. I know you've got campuses several different places that you've got to say grace over, and I know you have people on location that are in charge. But how do you manage 3 different campuses?
Well, it isn't easy. And if we were a corporation, we would be one of the 2 or 3 largest corporations in the state. People, I think, don't stop to think about it. We are the largest unit in higher education by about a factor of 2. We have something like 13,000 employees, an annual operating budget of $1.5, $1.6 billion annual operating budget, not to mention 34,000 students, so and a couple of thousand faculty. So it really is a challenge, and ultimately I have to sort of give the last decision. I'm blessed with incredible provosts and leaders here in Oklahoma City. Dr. Ferretti, for example, Dean Andrews at the medical school, just absolutely incredible. Dr. Clancy over in Tulsa, and Provost Mergler down on the Norman campus, Nancy Mergler. And I couldn't do it without a whole team that's just wonderful. But it is, we're in many ways the largest hotel operation in the state. We're one of the largest medical operations in the state, with hospitals to manage, one of the largest food service restaurant operations in the state. So it's much more complex than a corporation. I've learned a lot by serving on some corporate boards like Texas Instruments, for example, and watching how they do it, because obviously part of running this is to run it like a business. We used to let every department purchase their own Xerox machines or whatever it is, copying machines or other things. We realized we got a lot better deal by putting things together and purchasing in big volumes. All sorts of things that you learn by watching how a business operates with the bottom line. But it's much more complex, because a CEO generally of a business can just say, "Okay, that's it, I've listened, there's the decision." A university president has to lead by persuasion. The faculty plays an important process, for one thing, in helping to pick new faculty when we need replacements, because they judge their academic qualifications, as they should. Our students are, as far as I'm concerned, our #1 constituency. That's the whole reason why the university exists. And then you have alumni who have a sometimes different point of view than the students or the staff or the faculty, and then you've got the legislature, which is our largest single donor to the university. So it really is complex, and you don't lead by giving orders. You lead by persuasion and partnership.
You've had a fantastic record of attracting National Merit Scholars and like-minded students. How has that transpired? How has that progressed over the years? Whose idea was that to truly seek out these top students from around the country?
Well, we put as much effort and energy into that as we do getting a great quarterback like Sam, who I might say also would pretty well qualify as a top student too. He's only made one B in his whole career, and he was distraught for weeks over that. So we have some incredible student athletes. 40 last year of our student athletes made 4 points. It's just unbelievable. And this year, as you know, it's been so exciting for me because we attracted the greatest freshman class of any public university in Oklahoma history. We had not only 176 Merit Scholars who were out on the field at the football game Saturday receiving cheers, but we had 470 4-pointers from high school. So about 1 out of every 8 freshmen you see had a 4-point in high school. I mean, it's just unbelievable the caliber of students that we have at the university now. I think it's because we are putting such a premium on excellence, and we've raised our admission standards some each year, although there's still 6% of the students that I can admit that I can waive the standards because, you know, there's always somebody that's gone through something, some family emergency or a problem, or other things have happened to them, and you just know they have what it takes. They just haven't had the help along the way. So we always want to leave room for that, make that possible. But little by little, and we're seeing it all over, not only in the state of Oklahoma where we're leading. And by the way, one of the interesting things, you go back in the Big 12, if you go back about 15 years, there was a 200-point gap between the University of Texas and their freshman class and us in ACTs. There was a 3 or 4 point gap in ACTs. Now, every year, one year we'll be ahead, the next year we're virtually tied. Now, that is a huge gap. And I always know when we've won because they don't ever put out their statistics very much or brag about it. But isn't that amazing to have gone from that level? And the faculty, and I know some are going to talk about it in a minute, but getting great students also depends upon having great faculty, and vice versa. Great faculty want to go where they can teach great students. And we've gone from the first 110 years of the life of the university, it took us that long to get 94 endowed chairs and professorships. Now we have almost 540. So we've had one of the most rapid growths in the entire country in having these endowed chairs, which help us keep the very best people we have. You know, we used to have all these raids on our best faculty. Now we have a way of keeping them and attracting the best for the future. So, and the Honors College and small classes. Good students want to be taught by great teachers, and they want to be in small classes where they can be really challenged.
Our guest is the president of the University of Oklahoma, David Boren. More with President Boren when we return on The Verdict.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma Realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
That land next door was a mess. Take more than a lawnmower to revive that land. I heard the oil and natural gas people was cleaning up old oil sites, and it wouldn't cost us a plug nickel. Oh yes, sir, it was quite a revival. The whole church showed up, want to make a playground for the kids. It sure is a blessing.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants.
We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, and our guest today, OU President David Bourne. Kent, where to now?
I'd like to talk a little bit, or ask you to talk a little bit about the Honors College. I know that was something started under your administration.
Right.
Tell us what it is and why it's important.
Well, the Honors College gives our very best students a chance to go right in and be challenged from the beginning. You know, I think it's wrong to recruit, for example, these National Merit Scholars, and we have over 600, and as has been said, we're #1 in the United States per capita of public universities. Well, you can't create and bring in these great students, recruit them to the University of Oklahoma, and then not challenge them. And that's one of the things I felt so strongly about, because I think in the past, our very best students, and gosh, I would say that, I'm biased of course, but I think per capita, we have more really capable people in this state, young people, unbelievable. They could walk into Harvard and set the curve, they could walk into Yale, they could walk into Stanford or MIT and set the curve any place. The top 15, 20% of the students at the University of Oklahoma, I'll put them in any Ivy, and we'll blow them away. Well, just like this last year we won the national debating championship. We won the Harvard tournament and the Northwestern tournament. I mean, it just shows what Oklahoma young people can do. And I've always just felt it was a tragedy that families felt if they had a gifted student, a really talented, hardworking son or daughter, they had to send them out of state to go to school. And one of the problems with that is once they're gone, they very rarely come back. And I think that's one of the things that we're focused on. We want to be able to say, you don't have to go to an Ivy League school. You can get classes just as small in the Honors College. They're all under 19 in size. By the way, in every freshman composition course for every student at OU, they're under 19 in the total number of students, so that we can teach students how to read and write well. It's the basis of everything else. So we're doing some things that I think set a standard of excellence that people are beginning to learn about, not only in our state, but they're learning about them all around the country. It's always humorous to me, and I happen to hear by the grapevine, maybe it's my old role as intelligence chairman, that they had an emergency meeting down at the University of Texas not too long ago, just to try to decide why are so many of our best students going across the Red River north and picking OU. So I think that, you know, we can offer within the boundaries of a large comprehensive university, with all of its diversity, with all of its guest speakers and programs, with all of its incredible fine arts. Just think, 2 of the 5 largest attended museums in the state of Oklahoma are on our campus. One of the top 4 art museums in the United States, and one of the 2 top natural history museums. Not to mention all of the athletic activities that we have on campus. So we have it all. We have anything that a big comprehensive university can offer, but yet we have that feeling of the small private college. And that student who wants to take a really challenging course has the opportunity to take a course that will challenge her or him every bit as much as they would at Harvard. So I think it's the heart and soul of what's creating our reputation, and is what is drawing these really outstanding students. And you know, the great thing about it is that only half of the students who end up graduating with honors at the university, almost 2,000 end up going through our honors college. Only about 900 to 1,000 are qualified to enter when they first come. The many times they've come from other places, you know, they've been on high school campuses where it wasn't cool to let people know you were pretty darn smart. They come to OU, they run into these National Merit Scholars, and probably half of them are from out of state, and they get to saying to themselves, well, I'm as smart as that guy or that gal. I can do just as well. And also it's acceptable not only acceptable, it's encouraged to do well academically at the University of Oklahoma. So I think it's a catalyst too. It's not just those students that are in the honors college or start in the honors college that end up being affected. All of our students are affected because you spend more time with the students you're going to school with than you even do with the professors in the classroom. Yeah. And the more outstanding, incredible students you have on the campus, the more that increases the experience for all the students on the campus.
Can you spend a minute on endowments and your capital projects that are currently in process?
Well, the endowment has just really helped us so much. Again, it's helped us draw outstanding faculty. It's helped us have outstanding facilities. We couldn't do it.
You know, what size is it now?
It is about $1.2 billion for academics, and so that's about 4 times the size of any other academic endowment in the state at a public university, and that's just critical. That gives you that margin of excellence. And the other thing that people don't realize, they say, well, why do they need to get private gifts? Doesn't the state support the university? Guess what? Only 8% of the budget of our medical school, which is so important to the entire state. We see the impact on the economy of Central Oklahoma from it, for example. Only 8% comes from the state, 8% of the funding. On the Norman campus, only 18% comes from the state. If you go back a few years, I won't mention any governor's name, but to an administration about 30 years ago, about 45% of the budget in the Norman campus came from the state. Now it's 18%. So that's another reason why we would be struggling even more with tuition, which it's my least favorite thing to have to deal with because it creates such a problem for families if we were not getting this endowment. Scholarships, for example, we've raised almost $140 million in new scholarships, doubling our scholarships in 4 years. And in the last 3 years, even as tuition went up, our scholarships went up faster than our tuition, which meant that students with need, including middle-class students, we've created new scholarships for middle-income students, not just for those at the very bottom, because a lot of middle-income families struggle. We've gone up for the scholarship aid, even for them slightly faster than the tuition's gone up.
Mr. President, about a minute left. How do you think the university is going to be different 10 years from now than it is today?
Probably the biggest difference is, and I hope this will be true, every year we increase the number of students who have an opportunity to travel and study overseas. And the next generation of Americans is going to be so intertwined with the rest of the world, commercially and business, keeping jobs, selling our products. They really need that experience in other countries and to be able to really do what they're going to have to be doing in this generation. They're going to be challenged to compete with and to understand people in other countries.
Awfully good report card on the university.
Thank you.
Great tenure as a 13th president.
Well, at least I'm not in my 13th year anymore. They used to say he's 13th president, his 13th year, so at least I got out of the 13th year. I'm now in the 14th.
President Bourne, thank you for coming on the show, and we're going to tape another show for next week, so we look forward to those topics as well.
Great
you.
To be with you.
President David Boren, our guest today on The Verdict. Kent and I'll have a final word right after this.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to The Verdict, wrapping up a show with Oklahoma University President David Boren. It just makes your head spin with all the activity that's going down there.
Absolutely, and it's a standard of excellence that for a public university is just very unusual. I mean, everything is first class, everything is done right, done the right way. The recruiting of the National Merit Scholars, the generation internally of new Rhodes Scholars. It's just an encouragement to all of us here in Oklahoma that not only can our athletics be good, but our academics can be every bit as good.
Mm-hmm. A lot of capital projects going on at the university, a handful going on in Tulsa, a handful in Oklahoma City. The majority of the capital projects, though, taking place on the Norman campus, a total of $1.3 billion currently in the funding process for just basically buildings down on the university campuses across the state. It's remarkable. And you know, one of the things I find most interesting about President Boren and his impact on the university is his willingness to teach a freshman class. You know, sometimes you'll see a president teach for advanced students or at a high level, but to teach freshmen, I think that says something about his involvement.
Well, it does. He's done it since the very beginning of his tenure. He's one of the very, very few college presidents, university presidents that engages in that kind of activity, and I'm sure that the students appreciate it very much.
I bet there's a few students lining up to take that one.
I bet it's oversubscribed.
If you'd like more information on what goes on at the University of Oklahoma, you can check out their website. It is ou.edu. And of course, head to our website, theverdict.tv. We'd love to hear from you and tell us about a show that you'd like to see. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.